Hi, welcome to Lesson 27. I'm Nate Moore. We're going to talk more about pivot tables today, specifically a feature that Microsoft has set up in there called Pivot Charts. If you go in the Insert tab and the Pivot Table menu, the bottom option there is Pivot Chart, and it asks, just like you're used to seeing with pivot tables now, where's your data? So we'll tell it I've got data over here. This is some of the old console data we looked at several lessons ago. Shift in down helps me select the whole thing. We'll hit return, and we're going to put it in the existing worksheet. So now we have a couple of new things going on here. This Pivot Chart Filter Pane, which I'm going to move over here for a second, and there's a pivot table down here, there is a pivot chart area over here, and the pivot table field list, which let's get this going a minute so we can get it out of the way. If we drag the patient down here, first thing I want to do with the patient is I want to count them. The number format, I don't need any decimals. That works just fine. So now I've got a graph that says I've got about 2,500 patients. That's great. And watch what happens as I add things to the graph. Let's see if I look at is my insurance commercial or Medicare. Let's come over here in the pivot table, and we'll hide the field list for a minute so you can see commercial and Medicare are there, and I can see I've got about a little over 1,350 commercial patients, and I've got somewhere 1,175 or so Medicare patients. And over here, this pivot table filter pane helps you keep track of what's there and gives you some filter options like you're used to seeing. Now let's come back here, and I'm going to click in the pivot table so I can get my field list back. And let's see that I want to look at commercial and Medicare patient mix by location. So I can drag location to columns, and let's drag this over here so you can see it a little better. And we'll drag this off the screen for a minute so you can see the chart. So here's the chart, and the chart is showing me commercial, and I have got a little legend over here that shows me the central, east, north, south, and west. And the beauty of pivot charts is if you want to move things around, you can put this there and that there. And now I see commercial Medicare, and I go side by side, central, east, north, south, and west. And this filter pane, we'll move this back in for a second, will allow me to only look at, say, commercial patients. And now I'm only looking at the commercial patients that are in those 5, or I can put the commercials and the Medicare together, and we can turn north, west, and south on. And again, I have north, south, and west. The other way to move these things around is to go over to the pivot table. We're going to slide this out of the way, and let's hide field list so we've got a little more room. Now watch what happens when I move the fields in the pivot table. Watch what happens to the chart. So if I come over here and I select all, the pivot chart is mimicking what's going on in my pivot table. So you could have this pivot chart on its own tab in the worksheet and make it really big, and can still control it either from here with this pivot chart filter pane. Here I know I've got a filter symbol, so I know I'm filtering data. Or I can get this out of the way and I can control the same thing from the original pivot table. Either way, you update the pivot table and the graph moves for you. I want to show you one more trick, and then that's plenty for lesson 27. One of the beauties of a pivot chart is that you have almost all of the chart options you'd have in Excel 2007 work here. So you'll see I have a design, a layout, a format, and an analyze tab. I'm just going to go to design and show you a couple of things. This change chart type gives you a whole bunch of different chart types that this pivot chart can deal with. So if I want to see it stacked rather than side by side, I want to see the Medicare and commercial patients in the same column. Click OK. And now they're stacked, central, east, north, south, and west. And I can see that I'm far and away seeing the most patients in central, and east is the smallest. But it's hard from this graph to tell which of my 5 locations has the highest mix of Medicare versus commercial patients. Easy way to do that is just change the chart type, and this chart is, you can see the little quick tip there, the 100% stacked column. If I do that and click OK, now everything adds up to 100%, and I can see that, yeah, East had my smallest amount of patients, but overall looks like East and then followed closely by North and West have the highest mix of commercial patients. And that fast you can change the graphs, and it can move around and show you exactly what you need to see. You can control what you're filtering based on this filter pane or based on the field list. There's an introduction to pivot charts. I hope you found it helpful. Thanks for watching.